Assalamualaikum and hello everyone. We will start with chapter 16 on human resource policies and practices. So human resource policies and practices in this textbook are referring to employee recruitment, selection, training and performance management. So these human resource and practices are important. It could influence organizational effectiveness. That's why it's considered very important because it's also HR policies and practices are also contributors or key factor that's increase or enhance an organization's effectiveness. So the first stage of HR programs is recruiting or recruitment. As you can see here, it starts with the recruitment where the organizations realize they need to hire employees. So they send out advertisements either in terms of in the magazine, in terms of advertisement in the magazine, websites, or in the newspaper or online. So that's the starting point of recruitment. So recruitment is the first stage in HR programs, and then after recruiting, that means after the organization advertise about the vacancy, the needs for the employees to hire employees. After recruitment, followed with selections. So selections where where the candidates send their applications, their resume, and then the organization receive all these resume applications, and the organization need to select all these candidates. So that's a selection. So strategic recruitment, we go back to the recruitment. Strategic recruitment has become a cornerstone for any company in which recruiting practices are developed in alignment with their long-term strategic goals. Because the recruitment process, how many employees need to be hired, what kind of positions that have been offered, all these must be aligned with their long-term strategic goals. So they send out advertisements to inform to the future candidates of the positions about what they need, about the requirements, about the for example about the job tasks, about the requirement in terms of education, experience, skill, and so on. So the most effective recruiter, that's mean how to recruit employees, how to recruit candidates, either internal or external, must be well informed about the job. Internal can be from, for example, the organization themselves post the advertisement on their board or on their website that catered toward internal employees, or external, or either online or in the newspaper, or is catered to find candidates from outside of the organizations. So the recruiters, that's mean either through the organization. Sometimes the organizations outsource to the agency, recruitment agency, to find the employees for them. So these recruiters are either coming from the internal, coming from the organization themselves, for example HR, or the external, for example recruitment agency, must well inform, that means must know about the job, must well versed in the area that they need, in the area that the jobs needed in terms of the vacancy, the positions that's gonna be advertised. So what they are looking for the candidates who will have in order to have better fits between the skill, that's mean the candidate skill, and the job requirements. And it is important to find the candidate with the better fit in terms of skill and job requirement, because they will be more satisfied in the job that they're going to take, because those who have matched in terms of skill, abilities, whatever, with the job requirement, tend to be more satisfied with the job when they've been employed. So another things about when we talk about the most effective recruiters, that means the most effective person who gonna recruit the employees, or gonna recruit the candidate for for the positions must efficient in communicating with the potential recruits. So the person who been given the task to employ the employees or to hire the employees must also know must also have good abilities in terms of communications, be able to communicate with the potential recruits, then potential candidates, and treat the recruits or candidates with a consideration and respect. So the recruiters, the HR or recruitment agency need to have this kind of communication skill and need to treat the recruits or the candidate who will apply or who are going to apply for the jobs with considerations and with respects, either during the interview or during the process. So the recruiters also must use a variety of online tools, not just like a traditional tool like putting advertisements on the newspaper, magazine, or on their boards, whiteboard, job boards, and so on. So it is important nowadays because many of the good candidates are out there, can access many of the social media. So if the advertisements is also being posted on the social media, it would easily and quite fastly to get the good candidates who may be suitable for the positions. HR process overview. One of the most important HR function is hiring the right people. So HR normally they do not want to hire employees and then later employees resign because the process and the budget for hiring, for training and so on actually quite high, quite costly. So HR is trying to hire employees with the right qualifications. That means to hire the right people. So when company hire the right people, they increase their human capital resources. So human capital resources is can be many. Human capital resources include specialized skill. So when organization hire new candidates or hire new employees, they are looking for the employees who have all the requirements that the jobs required. And those candidates who better match with the jobs, with the skill that the jobs needed, actually could increase human capital resources of the organizations. Human capital resources, in other words, referring to specialized skills, collective knowledge, abilities, and other resources available through an organizational workforce. So the goal of the selection process, the process of recruiting, hiring is actually, selections and hiring is actually to match individual or candidates characteristic with the job. So the important is to find the right person who could perform the job effectively and efficiently. So they need to find the right candidates, to find the one that match the jobs. In terms of individual characteristics in the work, in terms of candidate characteristics that match with the characteristic or skill to perform the job. So in other words, finding the right persons for the right job. So as you can see later, there will be exhibits showing exhibits. So this is the initial selection methods. So this exhibit or this slide actually show the new jobs applicants will go through several selection stages. So basically, when it's also maybe some of you may be familiar with this. When the organizations when the organization realized they need more employees, they need to hire more employees, so they will send out advertisements. So they will send out advertisement through many different channels such as online websites, social media, and also traditional way like a newspaper, magazine, and also through their job board that they have, like for example company board, they just put the advertisements on the boards. So those process of recruitment, that means sending all those advertisement, consists of the applicant can be go through after they don't know about the vacancy. They will send their applications either through resume, through application form, and so on. So these And then after that, so when the organization receive all this full of resume and applications, so the process will be through three stages: initial selection, substantive selections, and contingent selections. So the initial selection devices are the first information applicants submit. That means when they submit the application form together with the resume sometimes, or sometimes with the resume and the cover letter. Cover letter is just a letter, a short letter, 1 page or 1.5 page that accompany the resume. Sometimes the organization just asks the candidate to fill in the applications form without attaching the resume. But it depends if the organization didn't advertise their advertisements, but candidate just want to apply. For example, for one or two position, normally the company didn't advertise the vacancies. So sometimes it is the luck also, when the candidate send their resume with the cover letter, they will get the job. They will be called for interview. They will get the job. But normally the process will start when the organization realize they need to hire new employees, so they send out, I mean they post or they advertise the vacancy to the public or to the internal employees. So when they post their vacancy advertisements, they will receive some feedback from the candidate who are interested to apply, either through application form. Sometimes application form they can download from the website, or they can they can get from the person in charge, and then or they can send their resume with the cover letters. So when they send all these requirements, that now the organization have a full pool of candidates who are interested to apply for the job. So the first initial selection is to go through these informations about the applicants, about the candidate who are interested when they submit their application form or their resume. So the initial selection devices are the first informations applicants submit. When they submit, they are used for primarily rough cut, because sometimes the organization receive thousands of applications and they only have a few, for example 10 or 15 of less vacancy than the numbers of the applications apply. So they cannot go through each of the applications form or each of the applicant. So they normally try to use the primary rough cut, where they check the most important things that they want. So briefly, they just check they use the preliminary rough cut or the screening test just to find the rough mesh between candidates and with the jobs. So the rough cut is normally through first initial selections to decide whether the applicant meet the basic requirements. So preliminary rough cut is just to check whether the applicants or the candidate meet the basic qualification for a job. So the initial selection stage usually require an application form, like I mentioned in the beginning, normally required through application forms. Even though it is not a good predictor of performance, but it is considered good initial screen, because they have the information that the organization requires for the job, at least for the basics qualifications. Can be considered as a good initial screen, even though it is not a good predictor of performance. So most applications today, nowadays, when we talk about application form, applications, if you want to apply for jobs, normally begin with the online or through online. So during the initial stage, that means the initial selections, the applicants or the applications, normally the applications, that means the application form that the applicant submits or send to submit online or send through normal traditional mail, normally will undergo background checks, such as checking credit history and criminal records. So long time ago, these background checks normally happens at the ends, but it is mentioned here during the initial stage the application may undergo background checks. So this can be also after the application being sent, the organization will check the background of of the candidates. But used to be before this, the checking of background normally at the end when the candidate got about to get hired, the company check the backgrounds of this candidate. But it can be also, like mentioned in this textbook, the application mean undergo backgrounds checks, such as checking credit history in order to know whether the candidate has some criminal background and so on. So normally letters of recommendations are a form of background checks normally.